I'm black and disabled, so I ride around in a BMW. They don't see nothing but my color first, right? Yep. And so for me, it's a constant fight to like, yeah, you in the wrong neighborhood, but I'm in the neighborhoods I'm born in, right? So like, just because I done came up a little bit, I shouldn't have to be out of place.
Have you met Quincy? Have the two of you ever met?
No, we've never met before. I just said hello when I saw him pop on, but it's a pleasure to meet you, Chaz. I'm Quincy.
Nice to meet you, Quincy. Nice to meet you.
He's at King.
Okay, all right. And what are you doing? What do you do there?
I work in the outreach. I'm the outreach coordinator for the Counseling and Wellbeing Center on campus, and I'm also finishing up my doctorate.
Very cool. Congratulations to you. Best of luck in that.
Thank you.
So at Pitt, Quincy, I run our volunteer and service department. We provide meaningful and ethical service experiences to University of Pittsburgh on our Oakland campus. So I sit in student affairs, in the student affairs umbrella.
I'm glad you're doing the work that you do.
Yeah, it's trying for sure. So, but it's very rewarding, and our students are learning about community and civic engagement for sure.
Great.
So we are waiting for Andre and Bill and Wes to come on. Andre said he would be coming on. And this is just a really informal conversation. Just so one, you guys get to know each other. There's also another reason for this. So Open Up is the nonprofit itself is centered around bringing practices, mindfulness and healing practices to help center those primarily with disabilities. Open Spaces is an initiative that we started with a grant from Lululemon, and that is bringing all those practices to those who are in the BIPOC community. And Sunday Safe Spaces is specifically for Black folks, and not just Black folks, but we have started it as such, and we're opening it up. And then the intersection of us and all of this, wherever we are, there's so many of us in the Black community who are women, who are men, who are of all abilities. And we want to discuss these things that we all have in common and these things that are familiar to us, and then share our individuality as well. So once a month, we have these open-ended discussions, and we do have a themed topic. So this month, the topic will be Black men in leadership. And it's all encompassing. So it's about you guys being Black male leaders, your journey in that space, your reflections about that. And we do want to talk about Black men in mental health, Black men in physical health, Black men in community. So those are some of the questions and ideas and things that may come up. However, you guys, a lot of these times, these conversations become they're very organic, and they begin to have like a trajectory of its own. So within the conversation itself, something else might come up. But I was, Chaz, right before you jumped on, I was asking Quincy, are there topics or ideas that you guys would like to address? It'll be all Black men, Wes Hamilton, Chaz, Quincy, William Jenneret, and Andre Samuel. I will be facilitating it and then kind of just stepping out so you guys can have the conversation amongst yourselves. And it will be live streamed. So there's almost kind of like a fishbowl effect where you are in your safe space having a conversation, and then others will be able to view it, maybe ask questions, and then I will be the facilitator to do that. And then the last thing I would love for all of you to share, because we have an ASL interpreter, African-American woman. She's going to listen to all of us talk. She's interpreting for us, but she wants to kind of get to know all of us while we're having this conversation. Hi, Andre.
Hey, what's going on? Sorry I'm late. I was in holding for some reason on my laptop, so I had to jump in on my phone.
Oh, interesting. Maybe it'll let you on. Thanks for letting us know that. Marissa is on the call as well. She's kind of like running the thing on the technology side, so she can look into that. So Andre, Quincy,
I let her know. Thanks.
Oh, okay. Andre and Quincy know each other. I don't know if Andre and Chaz, if you guys have met.
We have met before. Hey, Chaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Andre. How are you?
Here a few times, and I've seen
That's
you
it.
on the Oregon circuit. Good to see you, Quincy. How's it going?
Hey, it's going good, Andre. How are you?
All right. Good.
So, April, to answer your question, I have to hop off here soon for another meeting. But one thing I think is important, is I think us being Black men, we just gonna vibe, right? We just gonna be real and honest and just be vibing. I think being Black in Pittsburgh is unique, right? Being Black in Pittsburgh is unique, and I think the intersection of our other identities and being Black, right? So whether you're a Black man and you're deep in your worship, or I'm an individual with a disability, an intersection of our other identities with being Black men, right? And how we live life and navigate that life in Pittsburgh, I think would be a very interesting conversation.
Okay, I'm going to share that. And just so you know, I did happen to get all Pittsburghers, which is funny. Wes is from Kansas City. And I actually enjoyed having you guys on too, because Quincy is from Tennessee, Andre, Maryland. Am I correct?
DC.
Mm-hmm. And Chaz, are you a native Pittsburgher?
Born and raised.
Yeah. So that was one of my intentions as well, is to bring the national experience into this space, because you guys come from different parts of the country, but yet you're going to see that you have a universal experience. So thank you for that. I wrote that down. That'll be something I'm able to bring up, Chaz. Quincy, you mentioned that you had some ideas.
Yeah, it's following up with what Chaz basically stated there in reference to the communities, but also navigating our identity and our complexity in white spaces and what that looks like from a leadership perspective. Whether we're discussing Pittsburgh as a community, whether we're discussing our field of work, what is that experience like in reference to leadership, specifically around our identity and as Black men in navigating white spaces. So I think that's something that we're definitely, like Chaz just said, we're going to keep it real. So that's something that we'll definitely be discussing.
Okay. Do you guys want to focus again, because not everyone is from Pittsburgh. So do you want to maybe talk about regional spaces?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, one of the things that being the Pittsburgh transplant and having this sort of universal experience, I think there's also different experiences that I've had in DC versus Pittsburgh that I think need to be discussed as well. I mean, the culture shock I was in when I first came to Pittsburgh, when I was living in DC, was just astronomical, right? I mean, it was, we don't have a Mitchellville here in Pittsburgh like we really, like we do in DC. So we don't have these neighborhoods where the affluent Blacks and Blacks who are doing well have these neighborhoods to to help bring up the community and keep our community growing. Pittsburgh is really missing that. Like, you don't have that like you do in the suburbs of Atlanta and the suburbs of DC.
In LA.
And LA, yeah, all the major cities, right? So, and like being in DC, for me, it's very different when you go back home. You can see a Black man, a Black woman, or Black family in Lexuses and Mercedes and BMWs and not think twice about it, right? Whereas it's very different here. When you see someone, and me personally, I say it all the time, like, Yinzers cannot stand to see a Black man in a nice car here in Pittsburgh. It drives them crazy. So that for me, I think was a real sort of comparison and contrast. But I've also seen in the 16, 17 years that I've been here, I have seen improvement, although we still got a ways to go. Okay.
And you mentioned something, like you said, Pittsburghers can't stand to see a Black man in a nice car.
Well, Yinzers. Very different. Very different than all Pittsburghers.
Good point. Hi, Wes. You jumped in right at a good time. Everybody, this is Wes Hamilton. He was on hold. And Wes, we're talking about topics that you guys are going to want to discuss. And Wes, there's Quincy and Chaz and Andre, and we're talking about some topics. And Andre just mentioned in Pittsburgh, they use the word yins. It's like saying y'all in the country. And I won't say it's kind of like PWT language, but Andre was just saying, like, in Pittsburgh, people can't stand to see a Black man in a nice car. And that's kind of a universal experience, I think. Yeah, exactly. Like with profiling and
it's different in DC.
It's different in DC, but even in LA, you have Baldwin Hills. But if you drive out of the area, you might get pulled over. So is that what you guys want to talk about?
I would love to talk about that, just because, you know, I'm Black and disabled, so I ride around in a BMW. They don't see nothing but my color first, right? And so for me, it's a constant fight to, like, yeah, you in the wrong neighborhood, but I'm in the neighborhoods I'm born in, right? So, like, just because I done came up a little bit, I shouldn't have to be out of place. And what happens is there's a lot of profiling that comes with that. I think it can piggyback off of the both communities of kind of how we share. So, April, I do think that would be a great topic, because it can go into so much more in depth of, like, culture and community, and, like, why does, like, we got to ride around Chevys and Fords and can't have BMWs and Benzes, right? Or even something more than that, right?
Or
like,
even Maximas. You got a Maxima and it's a 2020 or 21, they pulling you over. You know what I'm saying? Come on. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll bring up, I like culture and community, Black male profiling, experiences within. Wes, they were talking about being in Pittsburgh specifically, where it's just so de facto segregated here. I know Quincy was just talking the other day, we were talking about Kansas City. Our condolences to you and your team.
Hey, you see that jersey? I'm still all day. I don't care. All right.
But Quincy was mentioning, he was like, you know, when you drive through Kansas City, you'll be really surprised that there are definitely some, you know, hood areas there. And I said, yeah, Wes had mentioned that. So we can talk about that with, you know, within our space, like Black experiences and Black communities.
Yeah, because I mean, I think with Pittsburgh being segregated, Kansas City's the same. We can kind of go into, maybe if we want to bring up the history, since it is Black History Month. Kansas City has a divided line that's divided by a street named Truce. And so it was a slave owner. And so really the design that was created back to divide and redline and all of that was a template for other cities all around the country. So when you look at it and learn, this is J.C. Nichols. We just literally, when George Floyd, they tore up the whole, like, you know, suburban area, and they changed the name, took the name off the fountain and everything. So there's a lot of history here that actually other communities as well, you know, grab. But I think with Pittsburgh and the history, even the bombing and everything, like, you know, a lot of people don't know that. And so I think, like, you know, really talking about that, and then it's the perfect month to talk about it, right? So I would love to learn more, for sure.
I agree.
I agree 100%. There's a lot of rich history. Wes, you talked about Kansas City, and, you know, I couldn't help but think about Memphis in reference to some of the similarities and of history between Memphis and Pittsburgh. People know a little bit about the history of Pittsburgh in reference to the Hill District, and how the Hill District was basically a form of that roaring 20s community before the Harlem Renaissance even happened. In Memphis, before the yellow fever epidemic hit, there was a lot of wealth coming through Memphis. But of course, I tell people all the time, the racism down south just hits different. And of course, you know, Memphis has always, it's almost like predominantly Black, like Atlanta, but it's never been able to establish the Black leadership because of the racism that is predominantly Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, that tri-state area right there. And that's one of the things, of course, Dr. King being assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee, and some of the history there. There's a lot of history in reference to thinking about leadership that has been repressed because of the white privilege that folks are just trying to hold on to. So when you were talking about that history, those are some of the things that came to my mind. And of course, connecting all of that to the redlining that's happening in Pittsburgh in reference to how the Hill District went from the community that it was to where it is today.
Okay. Good stuff. I wrote down repressed leadership, repressed Black male leadership, which I think kind of gets to this whole thing about just imprisoning Black men, killing Black men, this white supremacist systematic racism that we live in. I do want to ask you guys, like, how are you personally affected by that? And that would be something, you don't have to answer it now, but does that sound like something that would resonate with you, or is there another way that I can ask that question?
It resonates with me. I mean, I can think of all kinds of answers just from that prompt right there.
Okay.
I'm good with it. And I think for me, it would prompt, I think, an honest conversation to really talk about, like, not only how living in this white supremacist world has affected me directly, but also how it affects my relationships with other brothers and how it has the potential to affect us or one's self as an individual when trying to connect with other brothers. So in my example, I speak from growing up as a child and being a biracial kid and having to identify or trying to identify as a child with more than one group growing up, right? And trying to find my place, then trying to find my identity and so on, and how that has affected me, right? As far as trying to identify solidly with other Black males.
That's good stuff. All right. Wes, for this conversation, so this is the 21st. Is that right? Sunday, the 21st. And Wes usually co-hosts with me, and we kind of, go back and forth with our questioning and all of that. But Wes is definitely going to be like a collective with you all, because you all are Black men, and I will kind of generate more of the questioning and facilitation.
Okay.
Does that sound right, Wes?
Yep, I'm with it.
All right.
Good.
I'm excited for you guys. We are going to record it live. We will work out the kinks. Wes was in holding. Andre got on through his phone, but his computer hasn't been holding. I don't know if Bill is in holding as well. So Marissa, we might reach out to you guys again just to see if we could get on and off easily. Quincy, were you able to get on easily?
Yeah, I had to reconfigure my mic and my camera.
Okay.
But it walked me through that when I logged on.
Okay. All right. I had to use Google Chrome.
Right. I was going to say, I just noticed that when I was doing it, I couldn't use Safari. I had to use Google Chrome.
Yeah. Honestly, I just didn't look at the email. Hey, bro, I was in Zoom. I was in Zoom morning. So I'm just being real, because I've used StreamYard before. So when you sent it, I'm like, oh, okay, it was a complete wrong link.
Oh, man.
At least I know how to get in touch with you. I can always send an Instagram message of like, get on.
I was literally in the clubhouse room. And so I'm like, I know something. I'm like, I'm waiting, but I'm going to talk to this clubhouse room for a little bit. But I'm with it. So we could always try to tap in maybe 5 or 10 minutes before we try to, but sometimes some people are on CPT time. I have CPT time and WPT time, so I'll be on time. It'll be fun, man. I think that, if you guys have any other things that you would like to talk about, feel free to share it with April before, so we can kind of talk over the questions. But we'll just have a raw conversation. Trust me, it's gonna be stuff that we want to say. I'm sure y'all been on panels or something before. that you don't get a chance to say. So we'll probably do part 2s of a lot of these conversations that we do. So just kind of letting you guys know and be aware, because once that conversation get good and that time in, we like, man, we need more time, we need more. So and we'll do that because it is, I mean, I don't think talking the history of these cities is an hour long, right? And so we can always piggyback and start to empower more people that come from these communities and let them see the people that made it out despite that adversity, right? So
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Wes. All right, I know everyone's busy. So,
Yeah, I'm literally
All
jumping to my next one.
yeah, I appreciate your time. This is recorded too, I'm pretty sure. So we could send it to you guys if you want to listen to the recording, and we can send it to Bill. Chaz was on Wes, and Chaz would be a good connection. He's at Pitt, and he's in the disabled community as well. So you guys will be representing hard this month. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you all, black men holding us together, keeping us women together and the families together too. So I appreciate it.
Awesome.
We appreciate you.
We appreciate you. Yeah.
Giving us this space.
All right, it's all yours. All right, you guys have a great rest of your day.
All right, everyone. See y'all in a little bit. Take care.
All right.
Take care.
Until then.